When a Hollywood icon steps onto a late-night stage, people expect admiration and respect. But what happens when the host decides to break down a legend's reputation just to get laughs? That was the night Sylvester Stallone didn't just face questions, he faced a clash of words. The setup seemed like any other late-night interview. Dim lights, the audience buzzing, the house band closing with a jazzy riff as Jimmy Kimmel walked out with his trademark grin. "Tonight we have a very special guest," Jimmy announced. "The man who turned mumbling into an art form, Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone." The crowd cheered wildly, clapping and whistling as Stallone walked out. His presence still carried weight even after decades in the spotlight. He was dressed in a slick black blazer layered over a rich maroon shirt. He raised his hand in a modest wave, then sat down with a polite smile. "It's good to be here," Stallone said, his voice still deep and gravelly. "Good to have you, Sly," Jimmy replied, leaning forward. "I was told you'd bring wisdom, experience, a few undecipherable syllables, and maybe a protein shake." The audience laughed. Stallone chuckled lightly, but his eyes narrowed, just a little. "I left the protein shake backstage," Stallone answered. "Didn't want to outshine your green juice?" Jimmy smirked. "Touché. So let's talk about your new movie. Another action flick, or did you finally decide to make one with an actual plot?" Stallone's face stayed neutral. "It's a story about redemption, about a veteran confronting his demons, something that connects to real-world pain." Jimmy raised his brows with mock awe. "Deep. And here I thought it was just another excuse to flex those arms." The audience chuckled softly. "Sometimes pain requires strength," Stallone replied calmly. "Not for show, but to bear the weight." The air thickened slightly. Jimmy smiled, amused. "Wow, that's poetic. Did Rambo teach you that, or Rocky?" "Funny," Stallone said, leaning back. "I always thought comedy was supposed to punch upward, not downward." Jimmy blinked, caught off guard. "Just having some fun," he said quickly. "Don't want to get body slammed live on TV." "Don't worry," Stallone said with a faint grin. "I only hit when it's in the script." The tension was clear. What started as light banter was sliding into sharp territory. Jimmy tried steering back. "Let's go back, Rocky, the first film. You wrote it in what, 3 days? Did you just run out of crayons?" The audience shifted uncomfortably. Stallone paused. His voice lowered. "I wrote it with everything I had while I was sleeping in a bus station, trying to sell my dog just to eat. Crayons weren't exactly on my shopping list." The crowd went silent. Stallone leaned in. "You know, Jimmy, sometimes jokes land. Sometimes they chip at dignity. You should be careful about which one you're breaking tonight." The gloves were coming off. Everyone expected laughs that night. What they didn't expect was a battle for respect playing out on national television. With every line, Jimmy aimed lower, and Stallone rose higher. Jimmy leaned back with a grin. "Sly, you should try stand-up." That comeback was actually understandable. "And you," Stallone answered without hesitation, "should try sincerity sometime. It might surprise your audience." The audience gave a loud, "Oh!" The atmosphere was tightening. Jimmy, feeding off the tension, pressed harder. "Let's be real. You've made more sequels than Hollywood has original ideas. Ever think about just letting go?" Stallone crossed his legs slowly, steady. "I keep telling stories people want to hear." "Maybe that's the part that bothers you." Jimmy laughed sarcastically. "Or maybe it's that you keep playing the same man with a slightly different haircut." Stallone's gaze sharpened. "Better than being a different haircut with the same tired jokes." The audience erupted. Jimmy forced a smile. Okay, fair enough. But seriously, don't you ever worry people see you as nothing but a punchline?" "Only when hosts like you try to write the jokes," Stallone said firmly. Rocky wasn't just a movie. It was hope. For millions who had none. This time, the applause wasn't just polite. It was raw and strong. Jimmy tried to keep control. "But you're a millionaire now. Isn't it a little much to talk about struggle?" "Struggle doesn't vanish with money," Stallone replied, his voice carrying weight. "It leaves scars. And those scars remind you when someone's using you as their punchline." Jimmy hesitated. You think I'm using you? You tell me. For the first time, Jimmy looked uneasy. He forced a chuckle. Didn't realize we booked a philosopher tonight. Stallone smiled faintly. And I thought we booked a host. The audience exploded again. Jimmy clenched his jaw. He was losing control. Desperate, he asked, so how do you respond to critics who say your career is nothing but nostalgia? That without the past, you've got no present? Critics talk, Stallone answered coolly. Legends work. I don't live in the past. I built it. The audience erupted with applause, almost deafening. This wasn't fandom. It was respect. Jimmy tried again. Come on, Sly, can't you take a joke? Stallone's smile faded. Can you take the truth? The silence that followed swallowed the entire room. Jimmy finally turned to the camera with a forced grin. We'll be right back after this short break, if Stallone doesn't knock me out first. But everyone watching knew this wasn't just a commercial break. This was a battle line, and it wasn't done. When the show returned, the tension hadn't left. Jimmy tried to reset the mood. We're back with Sylvester Stallone, the man, the myth, the, what is it now? 80-something-year-old action figure? The audience laughed. Stallone stayed still. Better to be carved in stone than made of plastic, Jimmy. The crowd clapped loudly. Jimmy tried brushing it off. Well, your fans are intense. They still think you're that scrappy underdog from Philly. I am, Stallone said simply. I just wear better shoes now. Jimmy scoffed. But come on, haven't we moved past the underdog thing? Isn't it time to hang up the gloves? Stallone's eyes locked on his. Would you tell a soldier to hang up his boots because war makes you uncomfortable? The air thickened again. Jimmy shot back nervously. Making Rocky IX isn't exactly a war. It is when you're fighting cynicism, apathy, and the belief that people like me can't inspire anymore, Stallone replied steadily. The audience roared in applause. So you're saying this isn't ego? It's mission, Jimmy asked. No, Stallone said. It's responsibility. To show people you don't stop because someone tells you to. You stop when you decide it's time. Jimmy nodded slowly, then quipped, spoken like a man trying to sell tickets. Stallone's eyes hardened. Maybe you keep turning it into a punchline because deep down you're afraid someone might take me seriously. The crowd erupted again. You want to know what scares me, Sly? Jimmy said, pretending calm. It's that people think Rocky is real. Rocky is real, Stallone said firmly. Because millions saw themselves in him. He's a mirror, Jimmy, something you clearly avoid looking into. The silence this time was electric. Jimmy tried joking again. So what's next? Anti-aging pills? A reality show? The audience chuckled nervously. Stallone sighed. You sit in that chair and hide behind jokes like they're armor. But after a while, it's not clever anymore. It's just noise. Jimmy shrugged. It's just TV, man. Maybe that's the problem, Stallone said. You treat everything like a punchline, even people who came here to tell a real story. The studio fell completely silent. Don't be so sensitive, Jimmy said. You've taken real punches. You can handle some words. Stallone stood up slowly. The audience gasped. I've taken enough, and I've given enough to this industry, to this audience, to storytelling itself. Jimmy stood too. Where are you going? We're not done. But I am, Stallone said. Applause thundered through the studio. Jimmy tried to laugh it off. Next week, we'll have a guest with a sense of humor. Stallone stopped at the edge of the stage. Next week, try having a guest with a soul. He walked off. The audience roared, not in shock, but in support.